Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Wilson School Board for Tuesday, September 3rd, 2019. Can I have roll call, please?
Mr. Case? Mr. Ehrlich?
Here.
Mr. Hart?
Here.
Mr. Hobb?
Here.
Dr. Kennedy?
Here.
Mrs. Cocker?
Here.
Mr. Martin?
Here.
Mr. Negrini?
Here.
Mr. Wolf?
Here.
8 present, 1 absent.
Thank you. Would you all please rise for the pledge to the flag? Mr. Maravich?
Two opportunities for the public to address the board. The first is on agenda items, which is immediately before the agenda. The second is on non-agenda items, which is at the end of the meeting. Pursuant to school board policy and the Sunshine Law, it is a 3-minute opportunity to provide the board with information on matters that are or may come before it. And I believe we only have something on non-agenda, correct?
Okay, thank you. Under communications, we have a special welcome. We have a new person sitting at the table tonight, so I'd like to welcome our new student government representative for the 2019-2020 school year this evening. This is Carolyn Patorek. She's a senior this year and serves as president of the student government. She's also captain of the water polo team, the Wilson girls swim team. She was an All-American swimmer 3 years in a row and was a member of the 2018 All-State water polo team. In addition, she is the treasurer of the Feminist Society and has participated in orchestra throughout high school. She is interested in studying either engineering or political science after graduating in the spring. So welcome. I hope you have a great year with us.
Thank you.
All right, just an announcement that the board did meet in executive session prior to tonight's meeting for a personnel issue. Moving along to approval of the minutes, looking for motion to approve the minutes for the school board meeting held on August 19th, 2019. Mr. Martin, Mr. Negrini, second. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Payment of bills, Mr. Martin.
President, I submit for payment tonight bills in the amount of $1,049,448.41.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Mr. Ehrlich? Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Hobb?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
8 for, 0 against.
Thank you. Dr. Fadley, Superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Wolf. Tonight, I present to you the personnel and program recommendations for your consideration.
Thank you. So looking for a motion for 4.1 through 4.8. Mr. Martin first, Mr. Hart second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Hobb?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini? Mr. Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
8 for, 0 against.
Thank you. Under consent items, looking for a motion to approve Mr. Christopher Trickett to serve as the School Safety and Security Coordinator for the Wilson School District per Act 44 of 2018. And 5.2, looking for a motion to accept with gratitude the following donation from Donald Curling at CME Custom Carts, $800 worth of repairs and upgrades to the golf cart at Wilson West at no cost to the district. Motion for 5.1 and 5.2. Mrs. Cocker, thank you. Mr. Hart, second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Under Human Resources, looking for a motion to request approval for Dean Damiani, currently acting principal of the senior high school, to receive a $2,500 stipend. Looking for a motion for Kara Swigert to receive a $1,500 sign-on bonus as part of the transportation sign-on bonus approved at the January 22nd, 2019 school board, effective January 23rd, 2019. So looking for motion for 6.1 and 6.2. Mr. Negrini, thank you. Mr. Ehrlich, second. Any discussion? Yes.
Mr. Damiani did an excellent job in that transition position. It was seamless. He communicated well with the student body and the parents, and he should be commended for his efforts.
I agree. The communication was excellent. Thank you. Anyone else? Roll call, please.
Mr. Hop?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
That's 8-4, 0 against.
Thank you. 7.1, looking for a motion to grant permission to contract with the BCIU to provide programs and services to special education students as presented. 7.2, looking for motion to grant permission to approve the adoption of the settlement agreement and release as presented. 7.3, motion to grant permission to approve the adoption and settlement, of the settlement agreement and release as presented. 7.4, motion to approve the agreement between the Wilson School District and the Antietam School District as presented. 7.5, motion to grant permission to contract with Talk School pending solicitor review and approval. 7.6, motion to grant permission to approve the nurses at Camp Soterra for Wilson Southern Middle School and Wilson West Middle School as presented. And 7.7, requesting permission to waive tuition for the following students per Board Policy 202, eligibility of non-residents at Green Valley, 1 kindergarten student and 1 grade 1 student from August 26th through September 13th, 2019. 1 grade 3 student from August 26th until 10/15/19. From West, 1 grade 8 student from August 26th through October 15th, 19. And at the high school, 1 grade 10 student, August 26th through October 15th, 19. So do I have a motion for 7.1 through 7.7? Mrs. Cocker, thank you. Second, Mr. Ehrlich, thank you. Any discussion? Mr. Negrini?
It speaks to the quality of our curriculum here, and especially the special services that we provide to our students, that a neighboring school district is willing to send one of their students here for those particular services. So, a big accolade goes to that department as well.
I agree, thank you. Anyone else? Roll call, please.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Hop? Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
8-4, 0 against.
Okay, under 8.1, we need a motion to either accept or reject a taxpayer's request for abatement of penalty and interest of the late filing underpayment of the business privilege tax. Mr. Ehrlich?
Motion to reject the taxpayer's request for the abatement of the penalty and interest on the late filing of the business privilege tax and underpayment of the business privilege tax.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second? Mr. Negrini, thank you. Any discussion? Let's do roll call on that one first.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Hop?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
8-4, 0 against.
Okay. And then under 8.2, looking for a motion to approve the agreement with the BCIU for accounting services assistance due to current vacancies as presented. Mr. Ehrlich, thank you. Dr. Kennedy, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini? Mr. Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Hop?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
8-4, 0 against.
Thank you. Moving along to committee, I'm sorry, no other items under there. Moving along to committee reports. IU, Dr. Kennedy.
Has not met. We will meet again in 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, 2 Thursdays from now. But we did have a curriculum committee meeting, and the bulk of the meeting was spent with probably what I think was the best presentation of the curriculum committee ever had on the retake policy. And I know that we have discussed the retake policy before, and I'm really pleased with what they came up with. I think they put a lot of work into it, and I was really impressed with how they looked at both our students with more difficulty and our high-achieving students, and they truly looked at the whole child before they came up with this retake policy. And I encourage everyone to check it out, and I'm as a parent and as an educator, I'm really pleased with what they did.
Thank you, I agree. I like the changes. Anything, do you have anything else under the IU?
We're meeting in a couple days.
Okay. Berks EIT, Mrs. Schlossman? Nothing? So a couple updates on our extracurricular activities. Off to a pretty good fall start here. Field hockey is 2-0. One of those wins came against Hershey High School, which was the defending state champion, so that was a great win. Football is 2-0. They beat some team from Shillington, I think, last weekend. Golf is 9-0. Boys soccer 1-0-1. They just finished the East-West Classic out in Pittsburgh, beat the AAA defending state champion in that tournament. Girls soccer undefeated at 2-0. Girls tennis 1-2. Boys water polo 4-0. And girls water polo 2-1. Anything to add to that, Carolyn, with the girls water polo? Anything exciting that I missed? Okay.
Oh, no.
Okay. All right, that concludes extracurricular facilities. Mr. Negrini?
Report, our next meeting is in October.
Thank you. Mr. Ehrlich, Finance?
No report. Next meeting's in October.
Okay. HR, Mr. Hart?
No report. Our next meeting is next Tuesday at noon in Dr. Faley's office.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Martin, Legislative?
Nothing yet. The legislators will start drifting in next week. One of the items that's constantly coming up is, the concern about each student getting the same amount of money throughout Pennsylvania. So that's still kicking around.
Okay, thank you. Public Relations, Ms. Troutman?
Just a real quick update. We just had a great kickoff to the 2019-2020 school year. Dr. Fadley continued his tradition with his annual bus ride. So we traveled to Shiloh Hills this year. We made numerous stops along the way, greeted students and families. It was a great time. We had a great time. After we went to Shiloh Hills, our entire district leadership team traveled to all the buildings to greet the students and staff and wish them well on the first day of school. Again, it was just a great vibe in all the buildings, and it was just a great day. PBS Channel 39 joined us for the bus ride, and they produced a really nice feature story, which we just recently shared on social media. In addition, Matt Citrone grabbed footage of the day and produced a great recap video that we shared with the community through social media. We also started up again the Bulldog Blitz, so that went out this past week. That will continue throughout the school year, and we are in the process of working on a very comprehensive social media campaign, which I'll share more with you about once that gets up and running. So thank you.
Thank you. Technology, Mrs. Cocker?
Our next meeting is October.
Okay. Ms. Petrorak, your big debut. It's all yours.
Thank you for letting me have the opportunity to speak about the student body. The first week has been very exciting. It started off with the Link Crew leaders welcoming the freshmen and helped them prepare for their new experience in high school. In Student Gov, we donated school supplies and backpacks to the Running Olivet's Boys and Girls Club so that every child could be prepared for the new school year. And then last Friday, we had our game against our biggest rival, Governor Mifflin, but we won with an extraordinary score of 64-14. But that wasn't the only win of the night. Our student government teamed up with Mifflin's and ran a food drive during the game, and we ended up collecting 1,358 cans together, which we all donated to the Greater Berks Food Bank. And then coming up soon, Minithon will be working to have their annual Gold Out to raise money for pediatric cancer, and Link Crew will be sponsoring a freshman tailgate before the game.
Great. Nice job. Thank you again, and welcome to the board. Mr. Maravich?
No report.
Anything further?
Nope.
Okay, under public participation, we have Mr. Gary Collar here to talk about a few items.
Time flies. I have three brief items to present, Mr. President, and I'm under the impression that I speak to you only on this. Is that correct?
You speak to the whole board.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, thank you for listening. The first item is the school bus stop for the middle school students at the corner of Dwight and Belmont. I was there for the last couple of days, and it is a very, very difficult bus stop. in the fact that it's probably one of the three most busy intersections in this part of the school district. So if you've not been there, you may want to look at that. Previously, the bus picked up closer to West Lawn on Belmont or somewhere on the other side toward Wawa, so that the children were not exposed to the horrendous number of vehicles coming toward the high school at that time shortly after 7 a.m. Second item, also related to school safety, involves the district-wide 15-mile-an-hour yellow flashing school lights. I've been the walker of my dog for the last 6.5 years, and I've watched this every day because one of my routes is past the high school in the morning. And on any day of the week that there is no school, the lights are flashing. So yesterday they were flashing, Friday they were flashing, and I'm sure that if anyone has been through the area, on any day that school's not in session and you find them flashing, it's a very difficult message for the motorist to figure out, gee, what am I supposed to do? And if I drive through the main one along Van Reed Road, I follow the rules because the police have advised me that that's the speed limit, and I have a line practically back to Sinking Spring by the time I go through the Van Reed line. So there is at least one company in this nation that supplies a system whereby one appointed official can change those lights with an iPhone, simple as that. Someone can be identified to do that. And the other part of that involves days where there's an early dismissal or a late arrival. The lights are flashing at the wrong time. So this involves every child that comes to Wilson, because whether they're on the school bus, walking, or coming in a parent's vehicle, at some point they're involved with that 15-mile zone. And then on a much more positive note, I'm hoping that somewhere among the facilities or the educational pursuit of technology, the district is pursuing green energy in light of climate change and the need in this planet to eliminate fossil fuels as much as possible. I'm hoping that we're looking at perhaps solar arrays on our buildings, nice flat roofs, the possibility in certain areas where a windmill may be possible, and the one that would be my favorite, having had over 40 years in the school transportation industry, I would like to see a green vehicle transporting students, maybe a van, maybe a bus. I personally have a Chevy Bolt. I'm very pleased with that. I'm very comfortable going out 100 miles and coming back and not having to worry about plugging in. Thank you for your time this evening. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Collins, for the annual, I think it's always April, but you always give the money towards the libraries. I know you're on the agenda, so thank you for that.
Okay. Any other business from the board? Yes.
Answer to this, but in follow-up to Mr. Collar's issue on the bus stop, Dwight, the bus stop on Dwight, where do those students actually stand to wait for the bus? Because that is very narrow there. I don't know.
And there's been a lot more at each bus stop. One mom was telling me that last year there were 20 students that stopped in Westmont, and this year there are 49 that stopped. So that's
Because that bus stop in itself, they almost have to stand on somebody's lawn, I would assume. Gary, I don't know if that's, and I noticed the other night as I was driving through there that the person on that corner has, I assume illegally, put up metal posts in the right-of-way right at the intersection off of Dwight Street down there. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But just was curious where they're
To
standing.
answer your question, I don't know exactly.
Yeah, I figured you wouldn't.
We'll look into it.
first thing tomorrow.
Thank
I
you.
just had one other thing. I want to publicly thank Dr. Fadley for opening up a kindergarten at Whitfield. Being a person who taught 28 students in a first grade class and having a child who went through from first grade through fifth grade in a class of 27 or 28, I can't express how important that is. Of course, teachers are still going to do what they need to do with 28 students or 22 students, but it's a lot easier to do what you do and to do the extras when there's only 22 or 23 students. And it's just developmentally appropriate. And having a kiddo that had to deal with large class size, I can tell you the cumulative effect of always having to be with that many students is really devastating. So I appreciate that, because past administrations have not done that. And I really appreciate that.
Mr. Wolf, I have one
Yep.
other item. I almost forgot about this. I just wanted to thank Mr. Simcox. I don't know what you had to do, but I probably don't want to know, so, but to get PP&L to get their project done on Dwight Street before school started, I commend you, because I will admit I had my doubts. I know they were supposed to be done Thursday, and I drove by there Friday, and I saw them still out there working, and I'm thinking, uh-oh, we got a football game tonight, this will be interesting, but congratulations, I know you stayed on them, and it's very much appreciated.
Now, if you could only stop them from tar and feathering Gull Road,
Yes.
which is a
Yeah, well-
main drag, right as soon as school starts.
That's an issue for Laura, well, as I told Mr. Negrini, as I was coming back on my bike ride this morning, they were at 6-something this morning, they were putting the signs out to start to chip those
Chip and
roads,
oil.
so those will be interesting, but
All right.
that's it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Hart? No? Looking for a motion to adjourn? Mr. Hart? Thank you.